Alright, today I'm reviewing the Ibanez S770CZM. It has everything from DiMarzio pickups to a roasted maple neck. Of course, the S series from Ibanez does have sentimental value for me. I did play an S470 back in the day, ages ago when I would play live, and so I'm reviewing this guitar right here. This is my own guitar. I bought it with my own money. I'm not sponsored. I'm going to be talking about the quality, the playability. I'm going to showcase the sound of this guitar, and I'm going to mention overall just would I recommend this guitar. So let's jump right into it and let's talk about the quality of this guitar first. Now the potentiometers, how these turn, I want to talk about this first. It's not too high friction, it's not too low friction. It's kind of in the space between not worrying about it turning live and always worrying about it turning live. So they don't stay in place as much as I would prefer, but they're not super loose. The electronics overall work as desired. The 5-way switch is pretty solid. It's not the greatest 5-way switch in the world, but it's nowhere near low quality. It is pretty satisfying to use, and you do feel like it will last through a show, through a tour, through years of recording. The output jack also feels pretty solid. It doesn't feel like it's loose by any means. You're not going to have to go in and tighten it, at least on this one right here. All right, then for the pickups, the DiMarzios are pretty nice. You've got the Tone Zone, the Air North, and the True Velvet. This is the combination that is on the Prestiges. It sounds like you would expect. They behave like you would expect. They're as robust as you would expect. No wiring issues or pickups cutting out or any problems with the wiring between the pickups and the switch here, which is great because I have had some Prestige models that have had these issues. The neck, fretboard, and body do seem pretty solid, pretty smooth. There's no sharp edges on the fretboard, as you can see. The binding is pretty well done. There's no sharp edges on the body too. I know it's an arch top, but then there's this kind of side right here, but there's no sharp edge here. You can rest your arm on it just fine, even without a sleeve. I know I'm wearing sleeves right now, but even without a sleeve, there's no piercing sharp edge on the body. And the roasted maple neck, it does feel pretty solid. It feels pretty smooth. This is probably my favorite Wizard 3 neck right here. And there's something about it. It's solid, it's smooth, it's fast. That's what really stood out to me about this guitar. It's not going to be as robust and as solid as something like an Ibanez Prestige. This isn't a Prestige or a premium model, but this neck does feel amazing in its own way. And I'll talk about that in a bit, but I want to talk about more the neck, the fretboard, and the truss rod. The truss rod, it does work, which is good because in setting up this guitar, I have had to adjust the truss rod several times, which I guess is pretty typical for an initial setup. And then the fretboard, the rosewood fretboard, it was super dry when I received it, so I did have to condition the fretboard. I always condition the fretboard though on a first setup on receiving a guitar, so that's no big deal for me. The rosewood on this S770 is smoother and better feeling than the rosewood on my Prestige RG655 from 2013. So I don't know if since then Ibanez has stepped up their game. Maybe I was lucky with this or unlucky with this. I'm not saying this guitar right here feels particularly bad to play, but the fact of the matter is the rosewood on this does feel smoother and nicer to play. I do prefer lower action. My fingers are tired. I've got a day job, but I was able to get the low action that I do prefer. I do like about 1.25 millimeters measured at the 14th fret, so it's super low. And I was able to achieve that with this guitar. So if you're willing to put in the work to get that perfect setup, you'll be able to achieve it eventually. Let's talk about the tuning stability real quick. Overall, the tuning stability is pretty good. It's what you would expect for this price point. It's not going to be Prestige level, but it's not going to be awful at the same time. You can use this guitar for playing live, for recording. Be sure to check the tuning every few minutes, every few songs, just to be sure. Staying in tune is a pro tip to having good tone. Of course, the RG Genesis will be more stable, but this is also a made in Japan guitar versus a made in Indonesia guitar. Nothing against made in Indonesia guitars, obviously. This is my guitar, I bought it. I do like made in Indonesia guitars. So if you're between these two guitars and tuning stability is a big key factor, you might want to look at one of these. But I'm not saying this guitar is bad, especially if you set up the intonation. The That is a key step to do. Be sure to level the bridge correctly. You'll get some pretty good stability. And then the bridge, the Edge 02 bridge, it's pretty solid. I'm not a super big whammy bar tricks kind of guy. I do like the occasional dive bomb. I like putting vibrato or whatever on the chords every now and then. So this can do that. The fine tuners, they turn fairly smoothly. These days, I tend to prefer a fixed bridge. Maybe I'm getting old and tired. Maybe I just want a simple bridge that I don't have to work too hard to set up. But there's another advantage to having a floating bridge on an Ibanez S guitar, and we can talk about that right now. So let's talk about the playability of this guitar, and segueing from talking about the bridge, you can see over here in the trim cavity it has the springs, and then there's the tone block back here behind the plate, and all of this adds weight, and this weight adds balance to this guitar because this guitar is pretty lightweight. And so because of that, this guitar, the S770, does balance better on a strap than the S671 ALB. I don't think they make these anymore, but this is the Axion label guitar. But if balance is a thing for you and you don't care if it has a floating bridge or a fixed bridge, then this guitar is by far the better balanced guitar because of that. This one here, it is neck heavy, but it's only a little neck heavy. And if you're playing it with your arm on it, it's not neck heavy at all. But over the minutes, the hours, the weeks, the years of practicing guitar, of playing guitar, standing up, practicing with a band, playing live, if there's something that annoys you a little bit, it can add up. So that is something to keep in mind. Of course, the next question is, did I lower the middle pickup on these guitars, on this guitar? The answer is yes. Yes, I did when I was setting up this guitar. I lowered the middle pickup. Of course, this one too. And then the neck profile, how playable is it? I do like the neck profile on this guitar, the Wizard 3. I like it a lot, actually. Not as much as a Prestige neck profile, but somehow I like the neck profile on this guitar more than on this guitar, just by a little bit, by a fraction. And this is the whole reason why I wanted to do a review of this guitar, a full video on it, to talk about it. Because I love this guitar here, right here, the S671. But in getting this guitar, I was just blown away by how the Wizard 3, which wasn't my dream neck profile, could feel so good. Talking more about the neck profile. Now this neck profile, as you may or may not know, at the first fret it's 19 millimeters thick, at the 12th fret it's 21 millimeters thick with a fretboard radius of 400 millimeters, whereas the Prestige, it has at the first fret 17 millimeter thickness, at the 12th fret 19 millimeter thickness with a fretboard radius of 430 millimeters. This is according to the Ibanez website. Now, depending on what you prefer, you might actually prefer this guitar over a Prestige, because if super thin necks give you hand fatigue, maybe something slightly thicker will be right up your alley. Now, the fret axis is what you would expect. It's a super strat. You can reach the 24th fret pretty easily. This is an Ibanez S series. Historically, they have had 22 frets, so they've had to modify the body a little bit. As such, it is in theory possible to hit the back of your hand against the lower horn. As you could see, in practice, you have it right here, so that doesn't happen all that often, if at all. If you're an ultra shredder with your thumb super behind the neck and your hand is like this, then yes, you will be hitting that lower horn. So keep that in mind if you're into that kind of ultra shredder virtuoso style. Not saying I'm an ultra shredder virtuoso by any means, but if you are, this will be helpful information for you. And then talking about the setup, as I've mentioned before, you can get that super low action. But just because you can do that and you can play shredding on it, that doesn't mean that's what you have to do. You can also play chords on it, you can play long sustained notes on it, and the string spacing on this guitar, on these Ibanez guitars, is pretty luxurious. So you can have your vibrato and stuff, and you're not really going to interact with the other strings too much. If you like strings more close together, then a 6-string Ibanez might be a little bit on the frustrating side. So let's talk about how the body feels to play, and we can compare it to an Ibanez RG. You can see it has an arched top, and also you can see it has an arched back right here. That's the hallmark of the S series. That's how they get the super thin sides. So it is going to feel different than an RG or a typical Super Strat where you've got the flat top and the flat back with the forearm carve, and then you've got the belly carve right here on the back. And so one difference that sticks out is if you like to play seated classical style like that, it does feel a bit odd, just the way the body is shaped and where the strap button is and everything like that. It doesn't feel that comfortable. But if you play seated in the standard style, if you're playing standing up on a strap, it feels pretty flat against your body. And again, that's because of the arch top and the back makes the sides pretty thin. There's nothing else that feels like a guitar like this. So if you do get used to this, I guess a word of warning, you're not going to like your other guitars that much. As such, that's where the weight savings is on guitars like this on these S series. So this guitar is not going to weigh you down in long practice sessions, long sessions standing up, long sets. It is not as light as those super ultra headless ergonomic guitars. But if you want a guitar that still looks like a guitar, has a headstock and all that, then this is a strong choice. How does this feel compared to an RGA? Of course, it has the arch top, but on the back, it is different. You've got the arch back on the S, but on the RGA, you've got the flat back with the belly carve. So if you really like the flat back belly carve kind of typical style, like on a Strat, like on a Super Strat, but you want an arch top, then I would recommend an RGA, if you're sticking with Ibanez, of course. If you want something truly unique feeling though, something truly thin feeling, then the Ibanez S is the way to go. Now I have to address the frets and playability. Does the lack of stainless steel frets bother me? Of course, I do personally prefer stainless steel frets. If you don't, that's fine. These are tools to make music. It's important to find the right tool for your trade. Whatever helps you the best. I prefer stainless steel frets, but I don't hate the typical nickel silver frets. And these feel pretty good. They're polished pretty good. The fretwork is great, better than I expected. So I don't hate it. I could see myself not refretting instantly with stainless steel and just wearing these down. I do like how this feels. Now, the sound of this guitar. First, let's demo how this sounds clean with a distorted rhythm tone and with a distorted lead tone. So it sounds like what you would expect. It has those DiMarzio pickups, the Tone Zone, Air Norton, True Velvet. No surprises there. It sounds pretty full. It won't do that modern tone thing unless you know how to dial that in with your amp, with your pedals, with your plug-in presets, etc. Then it can do that. I use the same plug-in presets I have been all year, just for frame of reference. And then of course the 5-way switch, it works like you think it does. This guitar does not have any kind of alter switch or anything like that. And for me personally, I prefer it this way. I think adding that extra wiring just introduces more points of failure. And I don't really use those extra tones at all, ever, unless I'm experimenting around for a few seconds. If you can use those tones and leverage those to make great music, power to you. Again, these are tools for the trade. But for me, this suits all my needs just fine. So overall, do I like this guitar? Yes, this guitar is better than I thought it would be. I did get this guitar at a discount because this is a used demo model. And so given that it was a steal, Answering the question if it was worth it, based off of that, absolutely yes. If you would buy it at full price today, because it is a little more expensive now, then the answer is probably yes. If you're a fan of the Ibanez S series, you like the bridge, you like the DiMarzio pickups, you like the Wizard 3 neck, it gives you that Ibanez playing experience. It's not the thinnest in the world, but it's not an ultra thick neck. If you like all of these things and you don't mind it's missing stainless steel frets, then yes, I would recommend this guitar. It has that all-access neck joint, very comfortable. Would I want this as an only guitar? And that's a harder question, because for a few $100s more, you can get a Genesis series, an RG Genesis series. Of course, if you need the S body, then the RG is a non-starter. But if you're open to both of them, you could get made in Japan quality right here. And of course, the neck joints, I think it's called the tilt heel on the RG series versus the all-access neck joint. For accessing the higher frets, the all-access neck joint is technically better. Some people online will argue that this joint here on the Genesis sounds better. Judging which one of these sounds better is out of the scope of this video. You could also argue that the pickups on this S series here are better, because these are DiMarzios versus the Ibanez V7 V8. And that is a bit out of scope of this video, but I have had good results with both. Either way, a Prestige would be a better only guitar still. Of course, the Prestige does cost more. So for the price, the S770 is a pretty decent only guitar. Given a made in Japan Ibanez will be a bit higher quality, because Ibanez seems to stress higher quality with their made in Japan guitars. This guitar is super solid. If I had this guitar back then, 10 or so years ago when I was playing live and stuff, I would keep this guitar. I would use this as an only guitar. I would be less inclined to buy more guitars, because this would have the 24 frets I would want. It's stable enough. It's super playable. This is more playable than the S470 I had back in the day. And these pickups are better than the INF pickups that my S470 had. Would I play this guitar live? Yes. Once I set it up and everything is all stable, I would. I'm the kind of player who will check the tuning every few songs anyway, so it doesn't matter too much if this has the best tuning stability in the world or if it's okay. If it had terrible tuning stability, I would not take it live, but this does not have that. This is pretty decent. Would I pick this guitar, the S770, or the S671? And that is a difficult question, difficult enough that if I had one or the other, I wouldn't think about replacing them. For the record, I also prefer the look of this guitar right here too, just a little bit. But the S770 does have better balance because it has that trem in it. And I have grown to like the pickup combination in this, the Tone Zone Air Norton combination. So this becomes a difficult question to answer. I'd say for the balance in terms of playability, the S770 gives a better experience. In terms of getting the tones I truly want and need for the music I make, the S671 is pretty good. I also like the simplicity of a fixed bridge, and this has locking tuners. I am a fan of locking tuners. So it all comes down to playability and balance versus tone and convenience, the convenience of the fixed bridge, changing strings, etc. To make a definite decision, I'd pick the S671 if I was staying at home recording a bunch. I'd pick the S770 if I was playing live a bunch, again because of that balance. Maybe the 770 is slightly more stable just because of the trem system. The S671 does have a plastic nut, unfortunately. It's not impossible to play live with this guitar too, but I would prefer playing with this. So would I recommend this guitar, the Ibanez S770? If you could get a used one like me for a discount, I would absolutely recommend it. It has fantastic pickups, it plays super well, you can set it up to have the action you like. It's a great Ibanez experience with good features. If you can get it at full price, it is still pretty good. You can consider saving up money for an Ibanez RG Genesis. Then you get made in Japan quality, but you won't get the all-access neck joint. Maybe you can find a used Prestige, but remember, if you're buying a used guitar, you're inheriting the previous owner's problems. But what do you think? Do you think this is an awesome sleeper model people aren't looking at with awesome pickups and great playability? Or do you think it's a bit overrated, a bit overpriced for an Ibanez model that isn't a premium or a Prestige? Be sure to comment down below. Of course, this is YouTube, so I have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it. Check out the Patreon, join the Discord. If you're looking for something cool to listen to, be sure to check out my music. I do a bunch of video game music covers. I do a bunch of original songs too. And hey, as always, peace.